Before you go and change your life in 2026, it's worth actually knowing what's going to move you forward and what is going to quietly hold you back. Because this year, I want you to build the life that you want. I want you to go on a journey that you enjoy on a day-to-day basis. And I don't want you to get to points in the year where you feel lost or burnt out or like you don't have a clue what the next move is or what direction you're even going in. So this video, I'm going to talk to you about loads of different things. I'm going to talk to you about the lessons that I learned last year, the lessons that I learned going into 2026 that I need to actually focus on doing better this year. The things that I know now, what not to do, and the things that you should do and should focus on to build the life that you actually want. And to build a meaningful life filled with direction and the purpose that you want to discover. Because as humans, all we really want to do is find our purpose. Because that why is what gives us a direction, an intention, a reason to wake up and to work on things that we want to work on a day-to-day, even if we don't have that much energy, even if we feel tired, even if we don't feel up for it. That direction and that why and that purpose is what is going to allow us to wake up and still work even when we're not feeling like it. So in this video, I want you to understand the things that I've learned myself, that other people have learned, that I've learned from them, that we shouldn't be focusing on going into 2026, especially for those who've experienced loss, especially for those who've experienced burnout, especially for those whose life has changed in the last year or the last few years. Because going into 2026, we're going to do it a bit differently. So let's begin by talking about what everyone is going to be talking about right now. 2026 pressure, new goals, new intentions, rushing to plan, rushing to execute, to fix themselves or to fix their lives or to optimize their lives. And what people do with their goal setting is where it all starts to go wrong. And it's what I've done previously and in the past. Because that urgency to start afresh, to build that new person, that new life so quickly and so fast in the new year is what leads people to the wrong goals. Sometimes what we do is we set goals that we don't even want to achieve, but we want what that goal is going to give us when we achieve it. So why are we working so hard to get to the finish line of that goal, to achieve that feeling that will feel good, but then we want the next thing that's going to make us get that feeling again and again and again. And then we're just going round and round in circles because all we really want is the feeling that those goals give us. So for example, I even did this last year. I want to make 10k per month. I want to travel to all these different countries in the world because I think that when I get there, the grass is going to be greener. But I tell you it's not. It's great to travel and it's great to experience new things. And I have that on my list this year that I want to experience new things again. But that's not the end goal. And it's not going to change my life if I'm in a different country than I am now. Because I'm still the same person and the life that I have is still the same. It's just in a nicer, warmer place with beaches and cool things going on. So those are some examples of goals that we tend to set that give us great feelings at the time when we reach them, but then we start again because we want that feeling again. So what I want you to focus on is that feeling, the feeling from the journey, the feeling from waking up every day and working on something that you're really passionate about. And let's get this straight. If you're working, if you're doing a 9 to 5, if you're doing any type of job and you're not enjoying it, you can work on those things on the side. It can start with half an hour in the evening. It can then move to an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours eventually. Then potentially become your full-time job and your love in life. But just because you have a job doesn't mean that you can't work on those things. And just because you have a job doesn't mean that you have to quit it to then work on those things. We can build on the side. But that's not the main idea of this video. The main idea is that sometimes life changes you. Sometimes life changes your perspective. Sometimes it changes what you want to work towards. And in this video, I want you to understand that there's different ways that we can go about life. There's different ways we can chase our goals. There's different ways that I want you to approach 2026 to build the life that you actually genuinely want. Because you can do it. I always say that if someone's done something that you want to do, there's your proof that it can be done. Because someone else out there has done it. And they're no different to you. They've just got clarity on what they actually want to achieve. They have their why that allows them to wake up on every single day, even if they're not feeling like it, and go for it. And they've gone for it. They've just gone for it and done it. But they're no different to you and I. They've just set that path and they've kept going and they've kept going and they've kept going and they haven't stopped. And that's what a lot of us do. We have these goals and we have these ambitions, but we stop when we're that close to getting them. And that all comes from direction and intention and clarity and purpose on what we actually want in our lives. So we have to figure that out first and foremost. What do you actually want and why do you want that? Because once you have that, you're going to go for it no matter what. So that's the first thing that I want you to understand, is having that direction and intention in your life is so important. It is so important that you have that. Because when you have that, you won't stop. And this video is about building a life that actually works for who you are now and where you are now. Model the rise, not the result, is a quote that I heard recently and completely changed the way that I thought about things going into 2026. There are people in positions right now that you might want to be in. And what most people tend to do, including myself, is you will look at where they are now and try and copy what they're doing. But we forget that those people that are in the positions that you want to now have put years of work into what they're doing to get to where they are now. So we need to model what they did to get there rather than where they are now. For example, if someone has a podcast with a massive audience, you can't just copy what they're doing now with that massive audience, because your podcast might just be starting out. And you might need to get the foundations and the basics to attract that audience and let it grow over time. You can't copy someone with 1 million+ audience and think that it's just magically going to work, because that's taken years of building. So model the rise, not the result. So that is just a little brief side point of what this video is all about. But that is a long introduction into this video, and there are some sort of subtopics and things that I didn't even have planned to talk about, and I think that will help you, and I hope that does help you, those little side topics. But I want to dive into what this year has really taught me and what it can teach you as well. You see, this year it really changed me. It taught me so much about myself that I thought that I'd already covered and I thought that I'd already learned. But this year just reminded me of so many things that I needed reminding of. And I want to talk to you about that, because I think that a lot of you will take a lot from this and these lessons that I've learned, because I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did this year. And I don't like to call them mistakes, because everything that you do wrong is just a lesson for you to take forward going forward. But the first thing that I want to talk about is forcing discipline. Now, in this day and age, discipline and, hustle culture, it's a really big thing. And I was the prime example of that this year with a challenge that I did. So I did the 75 hard challenge, which, if you don't know what that is, or if you've been watching my YouTube videos on the 75 hard, thank you very much. But you would have saw that at the end of that, I got a hamstring injury and almost missed the thing that I was doing the 75 hard for. And it wasn't that I was doing the 75 hard to run a marathon, but that was the whole point. It was the training block, the lead up to it was by doing the 75 hard, training, recovering, and then running the marathon in the end. And I almost missed that end goal, that finish line that I mentioned before. Literally, pardon the pun. But the main lesson that I took from doing the 75 hard in the lead up to a marathon is that when you force discipline, when you force overtraining and doing things that we know is not good for us, training twice a day, doing crazy things like running 20Ks whilst playing semi-professional football, whilst going to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week, whilst doing 2 workouts every single day, your body just naturally can't hack that. And injury, it was inevitable. But I kept doing it because I wanted to prove that discipline and consistency is what you need to be healthy, is what you need to be successful, is what you need to prove points when I didn't need to prove points. And you don't need to either. So sometimes discipline and consistency can be taken too far. And when we ignore the signals that our body or our mind is giving us, that's when we start to suffer. And what we do is we confuse suffering with growth. We think that by working so hard on our goals, whether that be fitness goals, whether that be business goals, whether that be relationship goals, we think that working 24/7 on that and putting all our time and our energy in that every single second of every single day and not sleeping enough, not recovering enough, not eating as well as we could do because we're skipping meals or we're overeating, for example. Because our body is requiring energy because we're putting so much of that energy into what we're doing. And that's when we start to confuse suffering for growth. And what that does is it can lead to injury. It can lead to burnout. And it can ultimately lead us to making less progress with our goals as a result. So the first lesson that I want you to take from myself this year is that just because something builds discipline doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to build a good life for you and progress for you. There's a way to go about discipline and consistency, and it's doing it in a sustainable way, not in a way that causes suffering either physically or mentally for you. So that's the first lesson. The second lesson that I want to talk about links to the goal setting that we discussed at the start of this video. And it's talking about chasing results kills fulfillment. So what do I actually mean by that? Well, what I mean is that when you're constantly chasing that finish line, like I said, numbers, outcomes, milestones, a lot of that stems from comparison in this day and age, but we do often chase those things. We chase metrics. We chase things that we think are going to give us that feeling that we want from that goal or that number or that feeling. And what that does is that the progress that you make stops feeling rewarding because all you're doing is chasing results and you're not chasing how you actually genuinely want to feel. And that's what we need to understand. What do I actually want in my life? Do I really want 10k a month in my life? Or do I want the freedom to be able to travel, to be able to provide for my family, to be able to pay for that coffee for my friend? Is that what we want? We don't actually want that number that we've mentioned. We want those things and those feelings that gives us. So chasing the result without a meaning behind it leaves us feeling empty. And that's what you need to understand. When you're chasing results, it doesn't do anything for how fulfilled you feel in your life. And that's why a lot of the most fulfilled people in this world, they don't do anything crazy or they don't have any crazy possessions. But what they do have is something in their life that gives them meaning, direction, purpose. And that's the main thing. And the moment that I stopped enjoying the process is the moment that the results just didn't really matter. Because I didn't actually enjoy the day-to-day journey. And that's why when people say, when you enjoy the journey, it matters way more than the result, they're spot on. The journey matters more than the end result a lot of the time. Because that's what you're going to be doing on a day-to-day basis, and you have to remember that. The next lesson, and this one I think a lot of people can resonate with at points in their life, is never ever perform a version of yourself. Never try and be someone that you're not to get results that you think are going to make you feel some type of way. I wasn't fully parts of myself this year. I tried to do things. I tried to be someone that I'm not to get something that I wanted. And I didn't even really want that in the end. And at the end of the day, I realized that I was doing things that didn't align with me and I didn't feel like myself doing, creating content that felt rubbish, that didn't feel like myself, doing things that just didn't feel like me. And I was holding back that honesty and that rawness and that realness. That was why I started creating content like this in the first place. And you could see it in the content that I was making. You could see it in my day-to-day life. I was feeling frustrated when I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. But no wonder. People can tell when you're doing things that feel forced. When you're working 24/7 on things and you're not getting the results, that's when you've got to take a step back and think, if I'm putting so much energy into this and I'm not getting the results that I should be, then I'm doing something wrong. And a lot of that stems from not being yourself. Be unapologetically yourself in 2026. Please. Because when you try to fit an image that isn't you, it's very hard to sustain, first and foremost. And it's very hard to even do the things that you want to do for that image that you've created for yourself. Because you can't do it with honesty and integrity and follow through with those things. Because it's not you. So don't ever be someone that you're not. Because the more drifted I became from myself, the more tired I became as a result as well. I burnt out. I had to go away to find myself again and to come back refreshed. You shouldn't have to do those things. And that's a sign of you not being yourself. So don't ever be someone that you're not. The fourth lesson is that I focused on the wrong things for fulfillment. Linking to that point before. Constant productivity. Being busy all the time. Having no rest, always working on every single day, working on things, not taking any steps back and thinking about things. And that is one of the best pieces of advice that I got this year. Sometimes the most productive thing that you can do is take a step back, think, journal, note things down about your business, note things down about your goals. Really take a step back and understand what it is that you want this year. I want to be the healthiest version of myself this year. Okay, absolutely brilliant. But that doesn't mean I want to get abs. That means I want to be able to go for a run and feel okay. I want to be able to go to the gym 3 times a week and let my body recover and feel okay and do it again the next week. It doesn't mean that when you look in the mirror, there's a 6-pack there, there's an 8-pack there. It means that you are healthy and you can do things on a day-to-day basis and feel good whilst doing them. But the main aspect that I want you to take from that lesson is that I was doing a lot, but very little actually helped me and fed me and fulfilled me. I did a lot this year, but not a lot of it actually made me feel any better. A lot of it just made me burn out. So focus on the things that you actually want, and that links back to remembering your why and your direction and your reason, your purpose, your meaning. That's what that links to. Next lesson is that ignoring your mental health for success is always going to backfire. I want you to understand that the mind and the body are the 2 things that need to be intact for you to build the life that you want. If either of those things are out of sync or not working properly or not in the healthiest position as possible, that's the first thing that you need to take a step back, stop and think, how can I work on those? How can I get those back to where it needs to be? How can I do something today that is going to make my mind and body feel better tomorrow? And in particular, your mental health. This year, I've woken up so much to mental health and understanding myself better and understanding other people's mental health better. And knowing that if your mental health is off, that's everything, because your mind controls what you do on a day-to-day. It can impact other people around you. If you let your mental health get so bad, then what's the point in all the success? Because you're going to feel down. You're not going to feel good about yourself. You're not going to feel the fulfillment from the success that you're actually getting, because your mental health has been damaged and not taken care of. And when you don't take care of your mental health, I promise you, it can impact you so much and other people around you so much that you don't want that to happen. You don't want people to experience that. You don't want to experience that. So never let your mental health take a backseat for the success that you want. That's a big lesson that I need you to learn. You don't outwork your mental health. You really don't. It just waits until it actually gets looked after. The next lesson that I had to learn this year, and it might not relate to all of you, but it's part of life, and pain and suffering is part of life. And it's that compound grief is a real thing. Now, for those of you that know about my story, for those of you who know about the community that I've created, Too Young to Grieve, grief is a big part of my life and a big reason behind what I do. And this year I understood and I learned that compound grief is a real thing. And what that is that unprocessed loss, or loss that you've experienced, then you add more loss to it, it stacks up. So the lesson that I learned, and the one that I want you to learn, is to try and process loss rather than avoid it, rather than do everything you can to not feel it, think about it. Because when loss eventually shows up again in your life in any different type of way, because loss, grief, trauma can occur in so many different ways, when that loss happens again, it really compounds and it can really impact you. So that emotional weight that you're carrying, when more emotional weight gets added to that, it can really impact you, both mentally and physically, because it's not necessarily new pain, but it's that old pain resurfacing, asking to be acknowledged. So I advise you to seek support if you need to. I advise you to look inwards and understand that grief and that trauma. Because when you do that, it will allow you to move forward a lot better as a result. So that's the sixth lesson that I learned this year, which was a hard lesson, and it might not be easy to hear, but I promise you, by understanding that, moving forward, you will feel a lot better for it. And just to link to that point, with another sub-lesson, is that therapy is a great thing, and it works even if you think you're fine. It really, really helps. And I really do recommend therapy to most people. If you can get it, go for it. Try it out. If it doesn't work for you, if you don't feel like it works for you, that's fine. At least you've tried, and that's all you can do. But I really do think that it is great, and it helps massively. It surprised me, because you talk about things that you don't really talk about with anyone else. And sometimes you go in there and you think, I don't even have anything to say today. But then, because it's a calm space with someone who you know you can trust, you just end up finding things to speak about and understanding yourself even better. And I think that understanding yourself is one of the best things that you can do for yourself in this life to build the life that you want. Because when you understand yourself better, you'll understand how you can be more productive in your work, in your physique, in your relationship. And when you understand yourself better, you'll be more successful and more productive as a result. Because you know why you do certain things, and you know how to then move forward with certain things. So yeah, it helps beyond loss, grief, trauma, crisis. It can help you as an individual better yourself for yourself, but also for others. So yeah, I didn't go to therapy because I felt like I was broken. I went because I wanted to live better. And you know what? It has definitely helped do that. And going into 2026, I personally feel like a new version of myself. And I feel so positive about things going into the new year. And I think that therapy was a big part of that. So yeah, I recommend it. The last lesson that I want to tell you, and that I took from this year, and that I think you need to hear today, is that you're capable of so much more than you think. Those dreams, those things that you think are unrealistic or sound ridiculous, you're capable of achieving those. And I think that you need to be more ridiculous with what you think you can achieve. Because the more ridiculous your dream is, the more it gives you purpose and direction to go and get that. And what I said before is that someone else might have done what you already want to achieve, or something very similar. And you know what that means for you? If they've done it, then it's possible. And they are no different to you and I. So why can't you do it? I want you to be more ridiculous with your dreams. I want you to think so big, because you're capable of so much more than you think. I hope you know that. You are capable of so much more than you think. And you need to know that, because this year, for example, that 75 hard journey that I talked about, first and foremost, I didn't think I could finish that. I didn't think that I could then run a marathon with a dodgy hammy, plantar fasciitis, a strapped up ankle. But you know what? I did it. And that's just proof that you are capable of so much more than you think in your mind, and that other people think. Because who cares what they think about your dreams? If they think your dreams are ridiculous and they tell you not to chase them, ignore that. You are capable of more than you think, and your dreams are realistic. And that's because in your mind, you will chase them until you get them. So go for it. Go for it. That self-talk, that positive self-talk, that mental resilience, that doing hard things without proving anything, that is proof that you're capable of more than you think. So go for it. 2026 is your year to do that. And that's a lesson that I learned this year. You're capable of so much more than you think. So let's talk about 2026 and what to do and what to focus on. Because there's a lot of talk about what you should be doing, and there's a lot of hustle culture, like I say, and a lot of people telling you to do this, do that. But model the rise, not the result. A lot of these people telling you to do these things will have been at a point that you might be at now, where you're building. You're working through things that have changed your entire life. You might have gone through grief this year. You might have gone through trauma. You might have gone through loss. And the first thing that I want you to understand is that it should be energy before ambition. Now you're going to be like, Luke, what are you talking about? What, we don't have ambition? No, that is not what I mean by that. What I mean by that is that ambition isn't bad. It's brilliant. Dream big, like I said. But having unmatched energy is. That's what holds you back. And I always like to say that energy is the currency of progress. So if your energy is unmatched to what your ambition is, it's going to be tough to keep that up without burning out and without getting to a point where you just can't keep going and you can't match that ambition that you have for yourself because there's no energy there to do it. So what I need you to understand is that your energy comes from simple things that people talk about all the time. It comes from sleep. It comes from training that gives you energy rather than takes it. It comes from food that gives you energy rather than takes it. It comes from fewer emotional drains in your life, people, environments, activities, things that you're doing that drain your energy. It comes from all of those things. I want you in 2026 to let some things go and stay in 2025 that have drained your energy, because energy is what is going to fuel your ambition. And it's not all the other stuff that you think it might be that fuels your ambition or that people say. It's energy. And if you don't have that, it's going to be hard. And this first thing is not about thinking smaller, like I say. It's not about not having ambition. It's about building on something that you can actually carry forward the whole of 2026. So that's the first point. The next thing that I want you to focus on is your identity over your outcomes. Now, I've touched about identity in the last couple of videos that I've made, and it is everything. Your outcomes will come and go. The goals will come and go, like I say. But your identity is what compounds over time. And the behaviors that you do follow your self-concept and your identity of yourself. So every single day, doing things like, or saying things even like, I'm someone who trains consistently. And then behavior, you go to the gym, you do a walk, you go for a run. I'm someone, for example, who protects my mental health. You journal on a daily basis. I live honestly. And what I mean by that is that I show up as myself every single day. I'm me. Your identity is what you need to focus on going into 2026, and that will lead you to the outcomes that you want. Because you will do things every day that will lead to those outcomes. If your identity doesn't match that, then you won't get to those outcomes. So it all stems from who you are, who you believe you are, and who you behave like. The life you want is built by who you become, not what you achieve. So become the person that you want to be, and the person that when the day comes, you know, I'm proud of the person that I became. And that starts this year. So let's build that identity of you. The next thing that I want you to focus on is systems that support the life that you want. In building the life that you want, you're going to need to have systems. And that might sound very complicated, but I'm not talking about AI bots and this and that. I'm talking about having systems over relying on motivation. And what I mean by that is make the right things easier for you. So what's that? What does that mean? Well, have a morning structure. My morning routine is so simple but so effective. So for me, the easiest morning routine that you can do is wake up when you set your alarm, brush your teeth, have a glass of water. If you can, get some electrolytes involved. If you don't have electrolytes, a pinch of Celtic salt or pink Himalayan salt, just to give your body the replenishing that it needs after a night of sleep, to hydrate you properly. Then get yourself outside and go for a walk. 20 to 30 minutes. That's all you need. Hopefully you can get some sunlight on your face. If it's winter time, 30 minutes. If it's summer, 20 minutes is more than enough. That is the most simple morning routine that you can do. But it will start your day off on the right note. Because you're getting outside, you're just in nature, and you're fresh for the day ahead. That is a simple morning structure. But what else do I mean by making the right things easier? I mean your training rhythm. Doing something that works for you and doesn't burn you out. I mean your work boundaries. Making sure that you've got systems to know when to do your deep work, when to shut down at night time, when to shut off from work, what type of work has focus where. the boundaries that you set around your work schedule, making sure that people don't message you or get into contact with you past certain points in the day, because you need to protect your own energy and your systems. And that comes from having the right system around that. And other things like having a weekly reset. That's a system in itself. On a Sunday, do you plan for the week ahead, or do you keep going and then burn yourself out and have no thinking time? These are just simple examples of how you can build systems to build the life that you actually want. Because what I want you to know is that if the system supports you, you don't have to fight yourself, and you will make progress as a result. So systems that support your life, remember that. The fourth focus is purpose without losing your life. And that is one of the biggest things I want you to take into 2026, because purpose does matter. And you might not have found it just yet, but you will. It will come to you. Don't worry. You will get there. But purpose really does matter, because it's that why that I say, the reason that you keep going when it does get tough. And sacrificing your entire life for something that doesn't actually fulfill you gets draining, gets tiring. And I say that from a point of someone who tried it. Because you need purpose, but you need it without sacrificing your whole life for it. And that will come. You'll learn how to do that. You'll learn how to chase your purpose, but also live a sustainable life as well. And what I mean by this is I don't want you to delay living until that goal is reached. And that stems from the type of goal that you set yourself again. You need to live your life as well as chasing your purpose and your goals. So create that balance, because purpose shouldn't cost you your life. It should give it meaning. And when you find how you want to feel, how that purpose makes you feel, that's when you can live your life and still have that purpose as well. So that's number 4. The number 5 that I want you to focus on going into the new year is that I want you to focus on progress that you can feel and not just measure. And that is the biggest thing that I want you to take from this video. In 2026, I want you to have goals and dreams that you can feel throughout the year and not just measure. I want you to feel calm and composed when you're chasing your dreams, when you're chasing your goals. I want you to have clarity throughout the whole year. Without clarity, it can be so frustrating and so damaging to your physical and mental health, because clarity and conviction is what allows you to go forward with your goals. I want you to be present. I don't want you to let your goals and dreams stop you from being present. I don't want it to stop you from potentially finding that partner if you haven't got one. I don't want it to stop you from seeing your family and spending time with your family. I don't want you to, not see your friends. I want you to be present while still having that purpose and making progress on a day-to-day basis, because you can do both. And you need both. You need connection. You need to have a balance to live a sustainable life that you enjoy. And there'll be people that will tell you not to have that balance. There'll be people that will tell you that in order to live the life that you want, you have to work 24/7. But humans have always craved connection, have always craved relationships, have always craved being loved. And how can you be loved if you're working 24/7? You're not being present. You're not communicating with your friends, with your family, with your partners. So I want you to focus on progress that you can feel and not just measure, because fulfillment shows up internally first. Remember that. So if your life feels better, you're moving forward. And that's the main thing. Even if nothing looks dramatic yet, it will come, because your life feels better. It's getting better. You're moving forward on a day-to-day basis. What can you do to be 1% better every day? And that will get you to that end goal. It's progress on a day-to-day basis, not just focusing on that outcome. So if you haven't got that dream that you've wanted or you want in 2026 by March, for example, as long as from January to March you've been doing something every single day that makes you better, it will come eventually. You have to understand that in this day and age, people can't do delayed gratification anymore. Everything that we like in our lives, things like food, takeaways, Netflix, whatever it is, it's all instant. You can get these things instantly. But the things that will make you feel fulfilled and build the life that you want will take longer and they'll be delayed. So remember that. Focus on the progress, not just the outcome. The number 6 thing that I want you to focus on, and the last thing that I'm going to touch upon, is having an honest self-relationship, a relationship with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Notice when you're forcing things, when things don't feel like you. Notice that. Take a step back and think, okay, Luke, this isn't me. This isn't us. We can't keep doing this. Listen to signals, whether it be physical health signals or mental health signals. Listen to those signals. When something feels off, it's going to be off. And you need to address that as quick as you can. And ask better questions. Ask yourself questions like, am I doing this for myself or is it for others? Am I behaving in ways that I feel like reflect myself, my nature, my morals? Ask yourself honest questions. Because the most important relationship you will have in 2026 is the one that you have with yourself. And that's not just true for 2026. That's true for the rest of your life. The most time you spend with someone on this earth is the time that you spend with yourself. So make sure that you have an honest relationship with you. Now, let's talk about what not to focus on in 2026. This is going to be good. Don't focus on forcing routines. You need to build rhythms that you can live with on a day-to-day basis and not things that you can just survive. Going into 2026, we really need to stop forcing routines and things that feel just not like us or just something that we can't sustain. If we're forcing a routine that we can't sustain, or we're doing a routine for a month because it's a quick fix or something that's going to, make us this in a month or get us this body in a month. If you can't do those things for the rest of your life, then don't bother doing them for a month. Don't force a routine that is not going to be sustainable for you, whether that's fitness, whether that's life, whether that's relationships, whatever it is. Don't force something you can't sustain. Because ignoring your reality and copy and pasting systems that work for someone else, they might not work for you. So there's no point forcing it. That's what I want you to understand. You can't be doing that going into 2026 because it's not going to last and it's going to do you more harm than good. The next thing I want is for us to stop focusing on timelines. Through my own grief journey, I've learned that grief doesn't have a timeline. And that's the same with life. We say things like, by March, I should have done this. By the summer, I'll be. And that's fine to have yourself goals and targets and timelines, and SMART goals have time bound in it. But what I think is a better approach for you to be able to sustain this and not burn out, and for someone who's gone through loss, trauma, their life's changed in 2025, a different approach will serve you better. And that approach is that direction matters more than deadlines. So I'll say that again. Direction matters more than deadlines. If your dream is so ridiculous and the life that you want feels out of reality at this moment in time, then putting a timeline on that it's not going to work, because who knows how long it's going to take you to get there. And like I said to you before, the best thing about life is the journey. So if it takes you 3 months, if it takes you 6 months, if it takes you 6 years, but everything that you do on a day-to-day basis leading up to that point that it takes you to get there is enjoyable, and you've got purpose behind it and direction, then what does it matter how long it takes? Because every day you wake up, you have a direction that feels good for you. So how good is that? So don't focus on timelines, focus on your direction. That's the next thing I want you to not do, is focus on timelines. Next, please stop comparing yourself to other people. Don't focus on comparison. It's one of the worst things that we can do. And unfortunately, it is difficult because there's so many things that we can compare to through social media, through TV, just seeing people constantly on our phones, in our computers, whatever it is, we constantly see other people and we constantly compare. And we compare to other people's progress, but they might be further along in their journey than you. They might have people that have helped them to get there that you don't have access to. There's so many different reasons that people are further along in their journeys that you shouldn't compare to that, because it's not fair on yourself. And you're making progress on a day-to-day basis and thinking that you're not because someone else is further along. So just focus on you. Stop comparing to other people. Because it's not just other people that we compare to, though. We compare to old versions of ourselves as well. And that's an old version of you. Let's focus on what we can do to make the new version of you even better. So I don't want you to focus on comparison going into 2026, whether that's with others or whether that's with old versions of yourself. Because your path changed. Remember that. Your path changed, whether it was through something that happened in your life or whether it was through you just, taking a new direction. Your path has changed. So stop judging it by old maps or other people's. Your current map is for you. It's your path to go for. And old ones or other people's ones aren't going to work for you. So remember that. And the next thing that I want you to focus on, or not focus on, should I say, is don't focus on aesthetic productivity. Very fancy word. So what does that actually mean? Well, that means looking disciplined. It means looking busy. It means looking successful. A lot of people that you think are doing really well will just be having a very aesthetic productivity to you. They'll be looking good. They'll be looking well. They'll be looking like they're doing well. But that might not be the case. So going into 2026, I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. Build a life that works and not one that performs or looks good for other people. Focus on your productivity on a day-to-day basis that makes you feel good. Stop focusing on proving anything. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, to others, to yourself, to the past. You don't need to do that, because you don't need to prove that you're okay. You just need to live it. All you need to do is live okay on a day-to-day basis to make the progress and build the life that you want. You don't need to feel like you need to prove anything to anyone, because you don't. You don't need to. All you need is to show up every day as best as you can, to live as best as you can, to build that life that you want and chase that direction that you want. That's all you need to do. You don't need to prove anything to anyone, and I need you to understand that. A lot of us think that we need to prove things to others to get that sense of fulfillment. It's not going to do that. And the last one that I want to touch upon is, don't chase a best version fantasy. What does that mean? It means don't chase a disconnected reality, one that's always just out of reach. Chase an honest version. not a perfect one. Because nothing in this world is perfect. So chasing that unrealistic, perfect version, best version fantasy is just going to keep you chasing things and keep you wanting more and more to get to that perfect. But perfect doesn't exist. But there is an honest fantasy that feels good, that works for you and makes you feel and build the life that you want. And that's what you need to figure out and work towards. So let's summarize this and summarize building a life that you actually enjoy. Because what does that actually look like? Well, look, I'm not a philosopher. I can't tell you, and I don't think anyone can tell you the key to happiness or building the perfect life for a human being. But what I can tell you is how to work out how to build a life that you actually enjoy and that you want. Because the perfect life isn't the same for everyone. Everyone dreams, everyone's hopes, everyone's reality that they think is going to make them happy and will make them happy is different. So going into 2026, fulfillment doesn't come from doing more. It comes from living more honestly with yourself and with the life that you want. A lot of us are chasing a version of ourselves or a life that we think is going to make us happy. But it's not honest. It's not our version. It's not our life. And we end up doing things for other people or for a version of ourselves that isn't what we actually want. And then we get there. And we realise that these things aren't actually making us feel the way that we want to feel. And this isn't a life that we actually wanted. This was a life that we thought we wanted because it makes other people think that we're doing well. Or it makes the old version of ourselves happy. So I need you to focus on the present in 2026. I don't want you to postpone joy. I don't want you to think that you can't do certain things or enjoy day-to-day basis and day-to-day life until you've reached this, until you've reached that number, until you've made this amount of money, until you've met that person, until you've got to that place. You don't need to postpone it to feel those feelings of joy or to build the life that you want. The life that you want, yeah, it might look slightly different to how it is now. But the feeling that you want when you've built that life, you can get that way quicker. So you don't have to postpone it. You don't have to postpone it until you get there, until you reach that outcome, until you reach that place. You don't have to do that. You can feel that feeling now, and you can feel how you want to feel when you've reached that life that you want. You can feel it now. Because we don't have to postpone our joy for the outcomes. And what you can do is start with things like your work, with things like your training, with things like relationships, with things like romantic relationships, family relationships, friendships. I want you in 2026 to let life feel full now, not later. Because some of the best memories and things that you will create in your life, they'll happen along the way. And they can be happening right now, but you're ignoring them because you're so focused on that future reality that you think is going to make you feel complete. When really stuff that we have in our lives now can make us feel those feelings now. There was a study done by Harvard University on ways in which that you can feel happier and feel joy and trigger parts of your brain that make those feelings become more of your reality rather than other feelings that we don't necessarily want. And all that study did was it had people write down 3 things that they were grateful for on a day-to-day basis for a certain period of time. All people did was write down what they were grateful for in their current life right now. And that is something so important to take into 2026, is that, yes, there might have been some struggles in your life this year, the last few years. Yes, you might have not had the best year. You might not feel your best self right now. But even then, there are still things that you can think on a day-to-day basis that, you know what? I'm grateful for that. And it could be worse. So just remember that I want you to let your life feel full now while still pursuing your purpose. And that, for me, is something so special and something that can make your life so much more enjoyable in 2026, is that knowing that what you have now, there are things to be grateful for. And there are things that are great in my life. But you know what? I don't want to settle with that. I'm very happy and I'm very grateful for those things. But I still want to pursue more. I still want to pursue my purpose, because I know that there's even more that I can be grateful for going forward. So that's what the mentality that I want you to take into 2026 is, that, yes, life is great. There are some great things going on. There are some bad things going on. There are some struggles. That's part of my life. But I'm grateful for things that I do have, and I want to pursue more. I still want more in my life, and I know I can get that. If I just do the things that I need to do on a day-to-day basis, think like the person that I want to become, I can get there. It might not happen in 2026. It might happen by 2030. But I'm going to show up every single day for myself as best I can in 2026, focusing on the things that I know I need to focus on and the things that will help me on a day-to-day basis. And that's more than enough. That is how 2026 can become so fulfilling for you, and how you can go on to build the life that you actually want while still feeling fulfilled in the one that you're living right now. So, there's been a lot to take in this video. And I hope that it has genuinely helped you feel ready for 2026. And I want to leave you with a few things. You don't need to do all of this and everything that I've covered in this video today. You don't need to start perfectly or be perfect at all. You don't need to rush anything. You don't need to rush your healing journey. You don't need to rush the business that you want to create. You don't need to rush finding a partner. You don't need to rush recovering relationships or friendships or anything. Your success. You don't need to rush any of that. But all you need to do in 2026 is find your why, figure that out, have a direction, an intention for the year ahead, and then just every day show up for yourself as best as you can and do things on a day-to-day basis that will help you get to that and continue going in that direction. Because that's how you build the life that you want. You don't build the life that you want in 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. It's just showing up every day as best as you can with that direction, fueled by that why, And then the rest will work itself out as it should do, as the path that you're on is going to take you. So I'm going to leave you with this. 2026 doesn't need to be the year that you fix absolutely everything. All it needs to do is be the year that you live better.